Good evening, and we're going to be hearing from Ed Horwich, the Director of Jewish Small Communities Network, and I'm going to be meeting him now to see and understand some of the work that he does for communities across the UK. And you'll be surprised to hear just how many Jewish communities there actually are here in the United Kingdom. Ed Horwich. Good evening, Mr. Horwich, and welcome to Norrice Lea TV. Now, I wonder if you could start by telling us which communities in the UK you are associated with across the UK geographically.
Well, I bet you don't know how many communities, small communities, there are, Jewish ones. Take a guess. Roughly. Pick a number.
30?
Try again.
40?
There's 100.
100?
Absolutely.
Okay,
and
I know
they're
about 15
all over the place. You know, so, you know, up in Aberdeen, all the way down to Truro, in Somerset, on the Isle of Wight. I was just in the Isle of Wight before lockdown. You know, all along the south coast, Norwich, Hull, Newcastle, Southport, Lincoln. I mean, Lincoln has got like one of the oldest Jewish buildings in the country. You know,
we took a trip there. If you look on our website, you'll see we did a trip with Daven Mincha in the oldest shul in the UK, I think they called it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
fantastic.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
So 100 UK communities, that is absolutely fascinating. I wonder how many people know that. I probably know about 15 of them. I thought I was being clever saying 30. So, wow, so kol hakavod to you. And what kind of work would you typically do with a community, your involvement as part of the Jewish Small Communities Network?
So what I try and do is bring them together so that they can exchange ideas, so they can share best practice, so they can just get to know one another, find out what's going on. Because even the small communities don't know how many small communities there are.
Right.
But there are natural links, and you know, going around the country, and especially now that we're on Zoom. I mean, now that we're on Zoom, I run a weekly meeting for community leaders, and we get communities from Aberdeen all the way down to Exeter, from Lancashire, your old stomping ground in St Anne's, all the way over to Kent. And, you know, we have people living outside Tunbridge Wells are on there, and we run a coffee morning on Zoom as well. And we get all sorts of people regularly turning up. And so there are people all over the place. There's a Jew in virtually every borough of this country.
That's fascinating. So after coronavirus, once the lockdown has been eased, I guess you'll probably want to continue doing these Zoom meetings now because it's a connection.
Well, this has been like the silver lining of a very bad coronavirus cloud. And it has brought people along, and it's sort of brought the Jewish community into the 21st century in a big way. I mean, Norrice Lea TV, an amazing job you're doing there, and so many people are doing it.
I'm rubbing it back.
And all the schools are doing it as well. You know, Stoke-on-Trent does its Friday night Kabbalat Shabbat. Yeah,
amazing. I know people there. Okay. Now I read recently in the press that you had secured a national lottery fund for about 100k, I think I read. 100k towards the project?
Yeah. The project is a £100,000 project. I mean, we've got about sort of £73,000 off national lottery. And that is my idea is to map the footprint of the Jewish communities in this country, because outside of London and some of the cities, there's not an awful lot of work done. There's been quite a lot of work done in Wales on heritage, but generally people don't have this knowledge about how ingrained in British society the Jewish community is. I mean, we've had an economic and a cultural effect wherever we've been. I mean, like in Bradford, there's a district there, it's called the German district. It's called the German district because German Jews came over to help the Bradford wool industry with the mechanics of their industrialization. Lots of people came along with them. They set up trade and business in this particular area in the middle of Bradford, which is now 100% Muslim area. And yet it's still called the German district. And Who knows why it's called the German district? That's lost. So we're trying to capture that and to get communities to record their histories. And we've been very lucky in partnering with Swansea University. They came on board, and we're working together. Unfortunately, coronavirus has not stopped the project. We started on the 1st of April and we'll go on until in another 12 months time now. We've just got a project worker in there, and he's going to
That's amazing.
People.
And what will these funds typically go towards?
Well, they go towards the cost of the research, getting around. We've got a small fund where we can help communities who want to record their heritage. They can apply for a little bit of money to help them do that. But that's down the line. We're not there yet. We'll be announcing that when it becomes available. But that's somewhere down 6 months in the future.
That's amazing. So would you help, let's say, a small community? There's a group of 10 Jews in Aberystwyth, let's say. And so would you reach out to them? Would they reach out to you? Let's say they need help for Yom Kippur, for example.
So people tend to reach out to us, or we reach out to them, because we create actual events where people can come. So going back a little while, we had a funded project which allowed us to have 4 regional meetings in the north of England. And at each of those, a number of communities would come together for an afternoon. They'd meet, they'd hear about some fantastic things that are going on in other small communities. So I have to say, the best one ever was in Sheffield. And they'll love me for saying that, because they just welcomed everybody with open arms, and there was loads of gorgeous food and all this, that and the other. And we had 2 special guests there. Well, we had a number of special guests. We had Aaron Lipsey, the rabbi from Newcastle, who talked about a project that's going on, combating anti-Semitism, taking church clergy over to Israel to show them that actually what's going on the ground. But we also had 2 communities come along, Norwich and Leicester. Now, Norwich has about 80 members or so, and Leicester has about 80 members, around about, something like that. Now, each one is doing a fantastic project. Leicester got a Heritage Lottery grant of £1.2 million to create a dedicated education resource centre to educate the wider community about Judaism, help combat anti-Semitism, and part of that is that they've got to refurbish their building. So they're actually helping the community and keeping their building going. And Norwich, they've got a community building and they've raised money, about the same sort of money, and they're creating an education resource centre with the help of the museum in Norwich. And those are fantastic things. And other small communities can learn that they can achieve some quite substantial landmark projects that will help them and really sort of help everybody around them as well.
That's amazing. So a lot of it's word of mouth as well. I know you have quite a big online presence as well. I've actually been to the shul in Leicester, very nice shul, the old style pulpit with the steps going up by the ark. It's very nice. That when you first started it in 2004, what were your objectives then?
Just so that the message would get out. I mean, it started because I used to live in Southport. That's where I was brought up. And I was living there. I was part of things going on. And they decided to discuss the future. And they thought, well, if we're discussing the future, let's bring the neighbouring communities like St Anne's and Blackpool in. And there were about 5 or 6 communities came together. Chief Rabbi Sachs came along, and various politicians, and they had lots of talks and panel discussions and lots of nice food, and everybody said, fantastic. You know what, we've not finished talking about this, we need to do it again. And I said, well, you know, I'll put it on the webpage so people can see what they've missed or what they've just experienced, and they can find out what's coming next. And that was all it was. And then gradually the word spread out around the country, and I started getting emails saying, you know, we're such and such, so that classes as a small community. Can we be on the website? So I put them on, and then I put the next one on, and then the next one. And then I started getting inquiries from people going, we used to live in Hull, and we want to visit our grandparents' grave, but we've no idea who to contact. We don't know whether it's locked. We don't even know where the grave is to find it. Can you help us? And I didn't have any answers to these questions, but somehow I found out.
So you were like the first point of call for these.
Yeah.
I remember because you were in touch with me a lot when I was in St Anne's from a lot of schools in Lancashire they were studying.
Oh, that is one of the big things that we do.
School visits for schools. We used to do that a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of them came via yourself through your website, which is great.
Yes, so those started to be very informal contacts from teachers, and so it became very convoluted, and so we formalized it, and now they fill in a form on the website. We don't publicize this form at all, but people find it like magic, and we deal so basically we're on a matchmaking service between schools and communities, and we are now matching 80 new communities and schools every year.
That's amazing.
So that's 80 this year, that's 80 next year, it's 80 the following year. Oh, it's probably growing because it just grows and grows. And that we probably are introducing around about 8,000 pupils to Judaism every year that way.
That's phenomenal. And a lot of them will be Jewish as well, perhaps without even knowing. Some of them have.
Well, it does happen. Sometimes I go out and I give the talks, but where I can't find anybody else to do it if it's within my travelling distance. So we do that, and we're trying to work with the, well, I live in Manchester now, but I'm trying to work with the Rep Council here, who are doing a scheme like the Board of Deputies to actually accredit the people who actually go out to school. So everybody's sort of on the same level, they're delivering the same standard. But there's so much good work in the small communities. Most of the small communities will actually deal with around about 60 school visits a year. Stoke-on-Trent, with between 12 and 20 people, does 60 or more talks or shul visits every year.
Well, that's amazing. So I take it you are non-denominational then?
Well, we do everything from anybody who looks longingly a bagel right through to Haredi. So one of the popular searches that we record on the website, people who want to go to the Chabad retreat in Llandudno.
Right, yeah. So contact you. Right, amazing.
Yeah, no. So we get a lot of inquiries. You know, is there going to be a minyan tomorrow? You know, is there anything going to be happening for Rosh Hashanah or Pesach? Anything like that. And speaking of Wales, I mean, other people who get in touch with us are social workers. So social worker will have a Jewish client, not anywhere near a city or a community, and they'll find us because it's very easy to find JSCN on the internet. You just put in Jewish and community, and we're the first thing that comes up. And so they get in touch. And I had two cases. One was a gentleman, an elderly gentleman who was in hospital, was ill, and I think he started to get a bit of dementia, and he'd stopped eating. He was refusing to eat, and so the social worker brought in somebody because he seemed to have he was unable anymore to speak English, or couldn't understand English. I mean, this was a guy who lived in England all his life and could speak. He went into hospital speaking English, but it just stopped. So, and he was refusing food, saying it's not kosher, it's not kosher. And then she got in a Russian translator, and she said, I wasn't quite sure about that, because he said, the guy's saying, yes, I can have the bacon. And she's going, no, that's wrong. Anyway, we've got somebody in there who could speak either Lithuanian or Russian to this guy, or Polish, and got him on board, and he was able to start eating. He got his confidence, you know, won his trust. And then we had another one. That
came because they contacted you?
They contacted me, and then I got in touch with somebody in Manchester and said, you know, are you willing to travel to Wales and go and see this guy in hospital? And said, yes, you know, that was great.
Amazing.
And then another social worker got in touch and said, we have somebody who needs a Jewish funeral, who needs an Orthodox funeral. They've been in care all their lives. All their family had predeceased them. And the social worker worked out that there was a burial plot in the Jewish part of the cemetery in Llandudno. But that's where that sort of their skill in making this happen had ended. They got in touch, and we were able to actually help facilitate a full Orthodox funeral with full minyan for this person and make sure that they had a proper burial.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, Mr. Horwich, thank you very much for joining us this evening, all the way from Whitefield, North Manchester. Lovely.
Sunny Whitefield.
Sunny Whitefield. Kol hakavod for all what you're doing, bringing Jews together from across the country, the chesed that you're doing, and the great merit. And good luck with all your future endeavours. Thank you for joining, and have a wonderful evening.
Thanks for having me on.